everyone, happy Wax on Wednesdays. This is week 3 for the Encaustic mark making series for January 2019. And this week I grabbed a bunch of old demo boards and reworked them into some simple fluid landscapes. If you'd like to see this video and how I reworked these, then it's available on the Wax on Wednesdays Facebook group. And this week I'm going to be using some India ink. You can use India ink, Sumi inks, but I'm going to use a new tool that I haven't used before, and that is the Kemper fluid writing tool. And it looks sort of like a Tajanting tool. And the links to all the supplies and tools that I use each week in Wax on Wednesdays is always available on the blog Plays with Paper, and the link is right below this video. So this is by Kemper Tools. It's called a fluid writer. This is the large size. So there's ones that are even finer that create more even finer lines than this one. This is the large size. It says that it's for use with acrylic paints, India inks, and other fluid mediums. So this isn't going to most likely work for wax, or I haven't tried it with wax. It is all metal, and it looks like to be all brass, so I may be able to heat it up like a Tajanting tool and run the wax through it if I heated it up enough, but I haven't tried it that way yet. I'm going to keep this one just for ink because I love using ink so much as a final layer on my encaustic work that I always am looking for some tools for fine line. So this little fluid writer claims that it holds like a brush and writes like a pen. So we're going to find out just how it does that on the encaustic surface, which the encaustic surface is a little bit different than doing this on either a fabric or a watercolor paper or anything, an absorbent type of paper or canvas or fabric. The encaustic surface, of course, is a little bit different because it is not absorbent. So it always is going to react a little differently. India ink usually has a tendency to bead up a little bit in places, which I think makes interesting marks, so I don't mind that at all. But it does apply differently to surfaces that are not absorbent. So we're going to see how this little writer does going across the encaustic surface. It does claim that it will hold the ink until it touches the surface that it's going to be applied on, which usually probably should be an absorbent surface, but in this case we're going to use it on encaustic. And this little tool that is enclosed in the packaging is to clean it in case the tool becomes clogged. It has a little needle inside that can go all the way through and unclog the writer. So here I'm just going to use some India ink, and it's really easy to fill. It actually goes, this little well that's inside actually goes a long ways. You just take the dropper and put a little drop of India ink there into the well of the writing tool, and its claim to fame also is that it will not drip on the surface until the nib is touched to the surface. And in this case, so far, that is true. I'm holding it above the encaustic surface. It's not dripping, it's not running out, it's not pouring out, and this is exactly what I want when I'm looking for a fine line writer for my encaustic tools. And here I've slightly touched it, and it's still not flowing or running out anywhere. It's has some pretty good control and is only flowing when I touch the encaustic surface, and I love that. This is going to end up being my new favorite tool here. So the consistency of the thickness of the lines has been pretty consistent here, and I can begin to tell that depending on the way I hold the tool, whether directly upright or slightly to the side, determines a little bit of the thickness of that line. And I'm going to start just some scrolling on the second piece here, and the well is empty, and I can actually see right through the hole to the encaustic piece itself, so I know that the well is empty and I can just go ahead and refill. But that well lasted a really long time. It lasted the entire first piece and part of the second here, so it really does go a long way on that India ink, not wasting any at all. And scrolling, once it's full, it works very fluidly. I'm very lightly touching the tip to the encaustic surface. I'm definitely not dragging the nib through the encaustic surface at all, or doing anything to incise marks into the encaustic surface. It's just a very light touch. And on this third piece, I'm just going to work on, I'm not worried about composition or anything on this third piece. I'm just looking for interesting marks and what this tool can actually do. So this is just strictly a practice board to see what can happen with these lines, and see some are thick and thin depending on how I hold the tool there. And if this nib begins to become clogged with wax, then you can always wipe it just with a paper towel or a baby wipe. And if it gets wax on the inside of the nib from just simply from working on the encaustic surface, you can just take that needle tool and put it through either the top or the bottom. There, right now it's full of ink, so I'm going to put a napkin there just to protect the encaustic surface. But you can put the needle straight through either way and clear out any of that wax that's built up. Now, it's good to note on these boards that I have not heated these at all in a couple of days. So these are completely cooled and cured. I haven't heated them at all for 24 to 48 hours, so they're completely cooled down, and they're still, you're still going to end up acquiring some wax on the nib when it has to have contact with the surface in order to write. So that's kind of unavoidable, but as long as your board is cool, it's not going to accumulate very much. So it's easy, really easy to clear out. So having some fun exploring different marks and different shapes with this fluid writer tool. I've turned it at different angles, I've switched hands, and it seems to be very fluid and have a lot of control. Has only worked fluidly when it's touching the encaustic surface, so far it works really well. And on this piece, I'm going to try some scrolls again, which were my absolute favorite, but I'm going to see what happens when I begin to tilt the pen one way or the other and see how my line gets thicker or thins out depending on the way I'm actually holding the tool. And there, now it got thick and it's getting thinner again. So that's an interesting way to get thick and thin line using the same exact tool. I would be interested, like I said, this is the large size fluid writer. I would be interested to see how the smaller sizes work with this India ink on the encaustic surface as well, if they work on even a finer line than that. And so I'm kind of excited to see that. That'll probably be the next thing on my Amazon Prime list, will be the finer writers. Absolutely love playing with new tools, especially if they work well on the encaustic surface. So if you have one of these writer tools and given it a try, or you just got it and opened it up and played with it, let us know in the comment box below how you enjoyed this tool. And I will leave pictures of these pieces at the end of the video. And if you'd like to join us for the Wax on Wednesdays project group community, there's a link below to subscribe. And also there are 16 online workshops in the Encausticology series of workshops. I hope you had a great Wax on Wednesdays. See you next week.